Hi everyone, this is Cooking with Kurt. Today my husband Donald and I are going to show you how to make a mocha roll. It's a mocha chiffon roll with rich mocha buttercream frosting, drizzled with salted caramel, and then topped with chocolate logs.
It's a coffee lover's favorite. This recipe was requested by a lot of you, and we hope you like this video.
We're going to start by making the mocha chiffon cake. Take 4 eggs, and while they're still cold from the fridge, separate 4 eggs into yolks and whites. Let them come to room temperature. Then take 2 cups of unsalted butter, which is 4 sticks, cut them into 1-inch cubes, and let it come to room temperature. These will be used later for the buttercream frosting. Then preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and take a jelly roll pan, which is 10 by 15 inches, and line it with parchment paper. Do not grease the pan or the parchment paper. Next, prepare half a cup of strong brewed coffee, however you would for drinking, and let it come to room temperature. If you're using instant coffee products, I'd suggest mixing half a cup of boiling water with 2 teaspoons of instant coffee or 1 teaspoon of instant espresso. Next, take a large bowl and a sieve, and add 1 cup of cake flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/3 cup of sugar, and half a teaspoon of salt. Sift this in. Then add in the 4 room temperature egg yolks, 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, the half cup of room temperature coffee, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Beat this together with an electric mixer just until it's smooth and well blended. Then in a large glass or stainless steel mixing bowl, add in the 4 room temperature egg whites and half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Beat this together on low speed for about 1 minute until it looks frothy. Then increase to medium speed and very slowly add in 1/3 cup of sugar while continuing to beat. Adding the sugar in too quickly might deflate the egg whites. When all of the sugar has been added, increase to high speed and continue beating until you see stiff, glossy peaks, like this. Then 1/3 at a time, add this meringue mixture into the mocha cake batter, and then very gently fold it in, being careful not to deflate the egg whites. Make sure to thoroughly scrape the bottoms and sides of the mixing bowl to ensure everything is smooth and uniform. Pour this batter into the prepared jelly roll pan, spread it out evenly, and smooth out the top with your spatula. We're going to bake this in our preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes, or until the surface springs back when gently pressed. Dust the cake with some confectioner's sugar to prevent it from sticking. Place a rectangular piece of parchment paper that's bigger than the cake on top, and using oven mitts, since the pan is still hot, invert the cake onto the parchment paper. Carefully lift off the pan and peel off the parchment paper the cake was baked with. While the cake is still warm, dust additional powdered sugar onto this side of the cake to prevent the cake from sticking to itself while rolling. Then, with the parchment paper getting rolled into the cake, roll the cake along the short 10.5-inch side. I'm actually rolling it by holding onto the parchment paper on the sides and not actually touching the cake with my hands to minimize the chances of the cake breaking. Then place it on a wire rack and let it cool to room temperature.
Now while the chiffon cake is cooling, we're going to work on our mocha Swiss meringue buttercream frosting. Take 5 eggs and separate them into yolks and whites. Let the egg whites come to room temperature and set the yolks aside to use for another dish. Then take a large heat-proof bowl like glass or stainless steel, add in the 5 egg whites, 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Whisk this together until they are combined. Place this bowl over a pot with simmering water on low-medium heat in a double boiler setup. Add in a candy thermometer if you have one and continue whisking till the sugar is dissolved. It is done when it feels sticky to the touch and you don't feel the grains of sugar anymore. If you have a thermometer, it should reach 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Take the bowl off the water bath. Remove the thermometer and whisk. Then, with an electric mixer, beat this mixture till you see stiff, glossy peaks form, like this. Then let it cool down completely to room temperature. When the mixture has reached room temperature, while beating, slowly add in the 2 cups of pre-cut room temperature unsalted butter that we had prepared earlier, 1 cube at a time. The mixture might start looking curdled, but do not worry, and just continue mixing with the electric mixer until it looks smooth. When all the butter is mixed in, add in 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract and 5 teaspoons of instant espresso powder, and mix this in until it's smooth. If instant espresso powder isn't available, you can substitute it by dissolving 3 tablespoons of instant coffee into 3 tablespoons of hot milk, letting it come to room temperature, and then adding it into our buttercream. Scrape down the bowl to ensure there's no unmixed frosting or frosting with no espresso. The mixture should look smooth and uniform. Set this aside.
Next, we're going to make the caramel drizzle. Take a small saucepan, over medium-high heat, add in half a cup of granulated sugar and 4 teaspoons of water. Do not stir the sugar or water, but just gently swirl the pan to make sure the sugar is leveled and getting heated as evenly as possible. Bring this sugar-water mixture to a boil while carefully watching out for it to turn into a copper light amber color. Be careful not to let it get too dark, otherwise your caramel will have a slightly bitter, burnt flavor. As soon as you see a light amber color, turn off the heat. It will continue to darken with the residual heat. Then, while vigorously whisking, very slowly add in 1/3 cup of room temperature heavy cream and vigorously whisk it in. Be careful of the hot steam from the initial addition of heavy cream. Adding the heavy cream very slowly will prevent the caramel from seizing up. But if the sugar does seize up into a ball, don't worry, just keep whisking and it will melt again. Add in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Turn the heat back on to medium-low and mix in the butter and continue to whisk for another 3 minutes. Then turn off the heat and let this cool to room temperature. By now, the mocha chiffon should have cooled down to room temperature, and while the caramel drizzle is cooling, we're ready to assemble the cake roll. Slowly and carefully unroll the mocha chiffon. Then spread a thin layer of the mocha Swiss meringue buttercream frosting on the top surface, about 1/4 inches thick. Then slowly and carefully roll the cake up again in the same direction it was rolled before, but this time without the parchment paper rolled into it. Transfer the roll onto your serving dish with the seam side down so it doesn't unroll. Fill the gaps at the ends of the cake with the mocha frosting. Then cover the outer surface of the cake with a thin layer of frosting as a crumb coat. Smooth it out with a bench scraper. And let your cake roll rest in the fridge for 20 minutes for the crumb coat to harden a bit. When your crumb coat has hardened a bit, apply a second layer of frosting about 1/4 inches thick on the outer surfaces. Smoothen all the surfaces with a bench scraper. Now this step is optional, but if you have an icing comb, you can create a pattern on the outside surface of the frosting, on the flat ends of the cake, as well as on the round surfaces. Make sure to scrape off excess frosting between each stroke. And remember to save some frosting to make rosettes at the top of the cake in the end. Then as much as possible, clean up any stray frosting from your serving plate. When the caramel has cooled down to room temperature, spoon a big scoop of caramel into a disposable piping bag or Ziploc bag. Cut a very small hole in one of the corners and do some practice drizzles on a plate. When you're confident with your drizzles, Drizzle the caramel over your cake roll in a zigzag pattern. Try to drizzle the caramel with a quick and confident motion while squeezing the bag of caramel pretty hard, which will help create a straight zigzag pattern and avoid getting a squiggly drizzle. Now save the rest of your caramel to serve on the side with your mocha roll.
Or as an ice cream topping, which is our favorite thing to do, the caramel will keep for over 2 weeks in an airtight container in the fridge.
Now, take a piping bag fitted with a large star tip and fill the bag with the remaining mocha frosting. And pipe out rosettes on top of the roll, leaving about a 1/4 inch gap between each rosette. I'm aiming for 6 rosettes here. Finally, place chocolate logs behind each rosette, so in our case 6 chocolate logs, depending on how many rosettes you made.
These chocolate logs are also known as chocolate batons, but you can use whatever chocolates you want, like Kit Kats.
Now let the mocha roll rest at room temperature for 1 hour before serving for the cake to set. Store leftovers in the fridge, and if it's been in the fridge, let it come to room temperature again before serving. This will allow the frosting and the caramel to soften and for the cake to have a more vibrant mocha flavor. And there it is, a mocha chiffon roll drizzled with salted caramel and topped with chocolate logs. Ang sarap!
Sarap!
Mmm.
Yum!
Wow. That mocha buttercream is so rich and intense.
And it's perfectly complemented by the salted caramel. I'm in coffee lover's heaven!
Thank you all for watching. Please let us know in the comment section below if you're planning to make this mocha roll. Send us pictures of your creations on Facebook and Instagram. The links are below. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Cooking with Kurt.
And don't forget to click on the bell so you get notified when we post new cooking videos.
Maraming salamat!